What is up, guys? It is Quinn here, and in this video, I'm going to be going through my Week 12 quarterback start sits, going through every single matchup, no bye weeks, so we will have, 32 starting quarterbacks to go through, listing them as either a start, sit, or a fringe option. As always, if you have any fantasy questions, if you drop them down below, I will be getting back to every single person. If you enjoy the content, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And I do believe this video will be coming out a day earlier than normal. And after the start sit videos, that's going to be it for the content this week. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town, so I won't be able to record like rankings, injury videos. So this will be it. Back to the normal schedule on Monday. You guys can still ask me questions later on in the week, and I will make sure to get back to you. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, hopefully, you're able to spend it with some family or friends. Have a good time. But let's jump into the first game on Thanksgiving, starting it off with the Bills taking on the Lions. So Josh Allen against Jared Goff. For me, it's a pretty clear start and a pretty clear sit here. Obviously, we're firing up Josh Allen as a very high-end quarterback one, and then sitting Jared Goff in a pretty tough matchup here against the Bills. In the second Thanksgiving game, we have the Giants taking on the Cowboys. And now Daniel Jones has actually been pretty solid this season as a fantasy asset, averaging 17.1 points per game. The quarterback position, that's pretty decent production, especially looking at some of the other quarterbacks across the league who have underperformed. But looking at this Giants offense, it's been hit really rough with injuries, especially at the wide receiver position. Like Wan'Dale Robinson looks like he's breaking out. Now he joins Sterling Shepard, as both of those guys are out for the season. So with the lack of weapons, and then also just this being a very tough matchup against the Cowboys, this is actually a spot where I'm going to be fading Daniel Jones here. The Cowboys have allowed the fourth fewest points per game to the quarterbacks. I just don't think this is a great spot here with Daniel Jones. This is just not an ideal spot here for Daniel Jones, and with no bye weeks, every other team playing, I just think you're going to have some better options at the quarterback position. On the other side with the Cowboys, continue to fire up Dak Prescott as a very strong start moving forward. And then the Thursday night game, the third Thanksgiving matchup, we have the Patriots taking on the Vikings. For the Patriots, Mac Jones just hasn't really been fantasy relevant all season long. Continue to sit Mac Jones. On the other side, I think Kirk Cousins is going to continue to fill in as like a weekly fringe play. You never love him in your lineup, but there are going to be worse options out there than Kirk Cousins. Now moving over to Sunday, we have the Broncos taking on the Panthers. Pretty gross here at the quarterback position. Russell Wilson just not getting it together. He is definitely going to be a sit. And then on the other side with the Panthers, Baker Mayfield is just abysmal. This dude makes like stud wide receivers look like they don't even belong on the field. He has absolutely ruined DJ Moore's fantasy value. I would like to see them go with Sam Darnold. Not sure if that's the path they are going to take, but even if Darnold was starting, he would be a sit also. We have the Buccaneers taking on the Browns. For Tom Brady here, I still have him as a fringe option. I think he's a high-end fringe option, but I'm not totally convinced that this Bucs offense is back. They had a solid win over the Seahawks, but they were still super run-heavy, and they kind of just got, I don't want to say lucky, but they put themselves in a ton of third downs, and Brady was just able to convert. If they're going super run-heavy, I think it doesn't set up Tom Brady very well, and so he is going to be a fringe start. So not someone I'm, totally fading, but I'm not totally bought back in that he's going to be a top 10 QB rest of season. On the other side with the Browns, going to be sitting Jacoby Brissett. We should be getting Deshaun Watson next week in Week 13. We have the Ravens taking on the Jaguars. And for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson definitely, underperformed his standards over the past few weeks. It's tough to blame him because the weapons around him are just non-existent. I still think he's someone we're starting as probably a mid-tier QB1 going up against the Jaguars here. And then on the other side with Trevor Lawrence, I think he's established himself as a solid weekly fringe start. So probably with these bye weeks or the lack of bye weeks, you would hope you have a better option. But, maybe you have an injury, something's going on, bad matchup for your starter. I think Trevor is a decent option this week. Then we have the Texans taking on the Dolphins. And in this matchup, we have a very clear start and a very clear sit. Obviously, Davis Mills not touching anyone's fantasy lineup. And then Tua, fire him up as a very strong play this week. We have the Bears taking on the Jets. And for Justin Fields here, the report coming out is that he has suffered a dislocated left shoulder, so his non-throwing shoulder, but obviously still something that is semi-serious and could limit his playing rest of season. So right now he is listed as day-to-day, but the report basically also said that he could be out for the rest of the season. As we all know, he has been a great fantasy option, high-end QB1 as of late, someone who I love the rest of season, even if his playoff schedule isn't super ideal. But just looking at this, non through a lens of me really wanting him to play, if I'm the Bears here, you have a pretty solid draft pick lined up right now. You have your franchise quarterback who's banged up. You have, I think, a week 14 bye. Why am I going to rush this dude back in the lineup to play, like week 12 and week 13, potentially risk farther injury? I just don't think it makes sense. So I would obviously love to see him out there if he is healthy, but I'd probably lean towards him not playing at least this week, maybe into week 13. If he does play, I think you fire him up as a very strong start. And then if he's out, Trevor Siemian, not even close to being fantasy relevant. Fields has been absolutely carrying this offense, a really poor overall unit around him. And so if he's done, this offense could look really, really ugly. And then for the Jets, a clear-cut sit here with Zach Wilson, even if it's Joe Flacco or Mike White, not interested in either of those guys either. In the next game, we have the Bengals taking on the Titans. Joe Burrow, I think, is a very strong start in this game. And then sitting Ryan Tannehill for the Titans. We have the Falcons taking on the Commanders. And Marcus Mariota has been someone who has been a decent streaming option, someone you could go to if your starter was on bye, averaging 15.7 points per game. But with no bye weeks and, not like a super favorable matchup here against the Commanders, I just don't really want Mariota in my lineup this week. Taylor Heineke, love him in terms of supporting Terry McLaurin, but definitely not someone I want to be starting in my lineup for fantasy. We have the Chargers taking on the Cardinals up next, and I like both of these quarterbacks as very strong starts and guys that I both think are trending up rest of season. So Justin Herbert getting Keenan Allen back. We'll see about Mike Williams, but I think this is a great spot for Herbert. For the Cardinals, Kyler Murray has missed 2 games in a row. It seems like he's been semi-close to playing in both. Hopefully we get him back here in week 12, and hopefully we get him back with Marquise Brown in there also. So both of these guys are kind of getting, their top weapons back. So I think, both of these guys, if they're obviously playing for Kyler's sake, they're both going to be starts this week. Then in the Raiders-Seahawks matchup, I have Derek Carr here as a fringe option. Overall in the season, I'd say Derek Carr has been fairly disappointing, but then he has all these injuries going down to his top weapons. Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, both on IR, and he's kind of out of nowhere played very well over the past 3 weeks. 18.4, 17.9, 20.3 fantasy points in those contests. This is a plus matchup here against the Seahawks, so I think he can slide in as like a lower tier fringe option this week. On the other side with the Seahawks, going to continue trusting Geno Smith as a solid start moving forward in a great matchup here against the Raiders defense. In the Rams-Chiefs game, we have Matthew Stafford re-entering concussion protocol. Definitely rough news there because that's back-to-back weeks with him in concussion protocol. So he's going to be a sit if he does play. I doubt he does play. And then if it's Bryce Perkins, he's definitely going to be a sit. For the Chiefs, firing up Patrick Mahomes as a very, very strong high-end QB1. In the Saints-49ers matchup, I have Andy Dalton as a sit. He's coming off of a strong performance, but he's looked rough before that, and this is a really tough matchup against the 49ers. Jimmy G coming off of a 4-touchdown day. He's going to be a pretty solid fringe option, probably like a high-end fringe option. The 49ers offense was looking strong, getting every single one of those top weapons involved. They can continue to look like that. Jimmy could become a very reliable week-to-week option. On Sunday Night Football, we have the Packers taking on the Eagles. For the Packers, I think Aaron Rodgers probably trending up at this point. Back-to-back solid performances, 19.4, 19.1 points in those contests. This is just a rough matchup here against the Eagles. The toughest matchup for fantasy quarterbacks. They have only allowed 9.3 points per game to QBs. Single-digit production is crazy at the quarterback position. So with all 32 teams playing, a horrible matchup. I'm just not interested in starting or, even really considering Aaron Rodgers in my lineup. I guess it's possible he overcomes the matchup. It's just not something I want to be betting on here. And then for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, very strong weekly fantasy start. Then on Monday Night Football, we have the Steelers taking on the Colts. Just not interested in Kenny Pickett as a weekly starter. And then on the other side with the Colts, I think there are certain slots where we could fire up Matt Ryan. And maybe if this was a week where there were 4-6 teams on bye, he could be a fringe option in a plus matchup here. But, I keep going back to the point. With all 32 teams playing, you're going to need a better, option than Matt Ryan in your lineup. So that is going to be every single week 12 matchup. No bye weeks, a lot of strong options here. If you guys enjoyed the content, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have all the start sits out today. So check out the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. As always, thank you guys for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.